Well, Happy New Year, Scott.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. It's not New
Feliz
Year's yet.
Navidad.
Oh,
wait,
you mean
that's
when this
Spanish.
is
No.
when this releases?
Yeah.
It's New Year. Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Feliz Navidad. What is the
That means
Spanish? Feliz dos años? Nope. Feliz dos Equis?
In Spain, I don't really know in South America and Mexico, but in Spain they say on Noche Buena. Noche Buena means New Year's Eve.
Noche Buena.
Noche Buena.
The good night. Okay.
Yeah. Noche Buena? No, Noche Vieja. Noche Vieja. Old night. The old night. Yeah, Noche Vieja.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, because like the year is dying. And
Buen
now
Noche
you've got a
Vieja.
new.
So you can say Buen Noche Vieja means Happy New Year's night or whatever. Did you have a good New Year's?
In Japan, they say ake ome, which is short for akemashite omedetou, which is like here's the new year, congratulations, you know.
Nice.
But they just go ake ome, and you're like, yep, back
That's
at you.
Nice. That's good. I learned in Spanish the importance of commas,
Why?
because you can say Feliz Nochevieja, which means Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Feliz Nochevieja, or you can say Feliz Noche Vieja, which means
What does that do?
Means Happy Night, old woman. That's kind of suggestive.
And as you get older, you can use them interchangeably.
You can use both. Yeah, that's true. You talk to your wife.
Yeah, you're like,
older.
Happy night, old woman, and also Happy New Year. Goodbye.
Yeah.
She's like, this is my one time a year. I get them both.
Yeah, so it's the new year, 2024.
Yep.
How are you feeling about it? How are you? What's
excited.
What's happening? You got a resolution? Or a theme? Some people do themes.
But if you
instead of
tell
a
your resolution, don't it? If you tell it, it doesn't come true.
It reduces.
It won't
that's wish. That's birthday wishes. That's different.
Oh, I've been using those
People
in reverse.
always share. Oh, you share your birthday wish?
Well,
all the
on my
time?
birthday, I make wishes for myself to be a better person, and then like for my New Year's resolution, I'm like, I'm gonna get a Ferrari.
Give me a bag of money. I hope I find a bag of money.
Yeah, that's my New Year's resolution is finding bags of money this year. But my birthday wishes are very reasonable.
So have you done that this year, or are you flipping back to the regular way? Or are you?
Well, I guess now that you tell me not to,
you're gonna keep doing it the way you do it.
Not to do wishes on New Year's. I guess I'll switch back.
Some people do themes. It's kind of cool.
Like
this
year
year's
theme
is health, because then they can kind of, as they go through the year, they can always kind of touchstone back to that theme. But if you say a resolution, then there's kind of like, oh, I could succeed, I could fail, blah blah blah.
I had the reverse version of that a few years ago. I had one year be the theme of my year was like, I was an adult. I'm a grown adult, and I was tired of not liking mayonnaise.
Don't lie, Scott. I look at I see a tiny tent over here.
Yeah.
I see figurines. I see toys.
Yeah, superhero stuff, comic books.
Yeah,
that's grown adult stuff.
When you
man.
say fully grown, I think you should just say I am an adult.
What are you talking?
Just save yourself. Don't say fully grown adult.
I'm a whole ass man.
I'm legally an adult. Am I actually an adult? Am I developmentally an adult?
Some people in official capacities might see me as a person of major standing.
Yeah, exactly.
No longer minor. Does that count as adult?
I can buy alcohol. I can rent a car. 26.
Now I forget what I was going.
Can you
with
run
that.
for Congress? Are you 35? Are you 30? Are you 25 Congress? Right.
Yes.
30 Senate.
I think 35
president.
is
I can run
senator.
for president.
Oh, president.
38.
Okay. Yeah, you good?
Oh, I'd like to announce
Your
actually
bid?
right now my bid for the 2024.
Well, I got a problem for
election.
you. You're 38. That is half the age of the two leading candidates.
That's true. Less than half.
I mean, you are
slightly half. Less,
you need to double the atom in order to reach the
I probably need
70 somethings of Biden and Trump.
I need a quintillion times the amount of money too.
That's true. That's true.
Quintillion's 1,000.
Well,
No, Chile is Chilion.
Kind of take advantage of people and shake hands and make money.
God.
That's
Press the flesh.
That's it.
Yeah.
But I was going to say a few years ago, I decided my theme of the year would be I was going to learn how. I was tired of not liking mayonnaise, and so I was going to be like
Teach yourself to like
2017.
mayonnaise.
By the end of this year, I'm going to learn how to like mayonnaise because I shouldn't. Why would I not like it? It's just
Mayonnaise
eggs and
is great.
vinegar.
Yeah.
Right. Like I like those two things. I just have a hard cut against mayonnaise when I have seen it forever.
Succeed?
I would say I'm okay with mayonnaise now sometimes.
okay.
I don't like opt for it. I don't put it on a burger.
How's your relationship with your father?
It crumbled. It crumbled to nothing. during that time.
2017 wasn't.
Oh my gosh.
Wasn't about improving the relationship. It was more about mayonnaise. I want to improve my relationship.
Well,
with
the one thing
mayonnaise.
my father always told me was like, no son of mine is ever going to like mayonnaise,
Whoa.
or else
There's
you're gonna
the trauma.
you're
There's
gonna
the
be
origin.
out.
There's the origin of the mayonnaise trauma.
Oh, do you think that's related? Why I didn't ever grow up liking? Oh, I never put those together until
I never
now.
realized.
Ah.
Therapy. It's the best. Help me really improve my relationship with mayonnaise.
Well, what's your theme for this year?
My theme, I don't have a theme. I don't do resolutions or themes.
Well, why are you asking?
I don't know. It's
Very-
just what other people do.
Oh, okay.
Small talk, podcast.
How clever of you.
I don't do either of those. I don't know. I mean, this is going to sound, I don't know.
So you don't care when
I
it's
just
a new
do.
year?
I'm at such a high level of output at all times. That,
Okay.
like, to set a resolution is like, I'm constantly setting resolutions and then doing them and like succeeding at them. So I don't
Like-
need like, I don't have like a time of year where I'm more productive. That's insane to me. I'm just,
You're like, I don't even keep a track of my mile.
Yeah, I just-
my mile time, because the next time I run a mile, it's going to be faster.
yeah.
Why dwell in the past?
I wouldn't
like
say that I'm good at anything. I just do a lot of things. Let's put it that way. I'm just bad at everything, but like do it a lot. Jack of all trades, master of none,
Quantity,
master of some.
quantity,
Ooh.
not quality. What they always tell you
That's
to
right.
shoot
That's
for.
what they say. So wait, let's do a solution. Actually, we got to do this because it's actually a big one.
Okay.
Okay, literacy.
Literacy is
We're
the
gonna
solution,
fix
or
we're
we
gonna
got to
fix
fix
literacy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
Guess-
literacy could be a solution to a lot of problems.
right.
which
So
is
we think of California. Yeah, a lot of problems. Right. Literacy could be the solution to what?
like, hey, read.
Democracy,
Read more.
science, everything, right?
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
huge. Literacy is amazing. Also, just happiness. People are happier when they read. Okay, California is like this educated state, right? You look around, there's all this talent density in the Bay. and
Allegedly.
this-
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
What's the literacy rate in California?
Uh-oh.
What? Yeah.
It's going to be something low. I'm going to shoot low with my guess. I'm going to say 65%.
It's higher than that.
Okay.
The lowest in the country is 71.
71's the lowest in the country.
Mississippi. I
Now,
think,
literacy rate, this is like
How many
percentage of
people
people, you get 100 people theoretically.
can read.
How many of those people can read
Like,
anything or
well,
reasonably?
almost
just-
everybody can read like their name and like stop signs.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
they can parse out like very simple text, But I mean, like someone
Who
could
can
sit
like
down and
sit down,
read a book.
read and comprehend.
Like they could buy my book and read it.
Okay. Caging of the American Mind
Caging American Mind
by Adam Browse.
or
Now,
any of the many books.
Motivate,
out there.
Future of Good?
Yeah,
Okay.
you got them all. Yeah. So the answer is 72%.
72.
So the lowest in the whole country is 71%.
Where is that? Where's 71 at?
I think it's Mississippi.
Okay, and then we're
Second,
right on their
California
hail, 72.
is the second worst literacy in the country.
Now, why is that? Is
Oh.
that
There's a couple of reasons.
multiculturalism? Is that
There's a cou-
education?
There's a couple of reasons. One reason for sure. So the reason I know all this is because I was just recently kind of volunteering to help this literacy startup.
Okay.
And I worked with them for like about a month on and off and helped them with a lot of stuff. They were having kind of teamwork problems and sort of blah, blah, blah. And I helped them with AI stuff because they didn't really know how to use AI to like improve their product.
Okay.
Anyways, I helped them with a bunch of things. But as I was helping them, they were helping me understand and learn a ton more about literacy and the problems with literacy in our country. Until I started working with them like 3 months ago. I don't work with them anymore. They're off to the races. But up until I started working with them, I thought literacy is like a solved problem.
Right.
Like I just thought literacy.
you
like,
get your phonics, you get your alphabet, you learn to read, and
yeah,
then you
and
go.
I thought 98% literacy. I thought literacy was high.
Right.
Okay, I want to disabuse everyone of this idea. Literacy is not solved. It is a massive problem. If 28% of Californians can't read a book, like sit down and read a book, that's a huge problem.
Yeah.
Like you can't run a democracy with 28%. And that's just California. All the other states, there's 5-10 other states that are all below 80%.
hmm
You can't run a democracy, much less an advanced economy, with people not reading.
Yeah, I mean, because I thought of it more as like a polio thing where it's like,
Right.
yeah, it's mostly eradicated. Illiteracy is mostly gone,
Right.
and then it pops up here and there, and you go,
Kind of whack it,
kinda
mole
get
it
it. Yeah,
down.
uh-huh.
Yeah. No.
but no,
This is a massive, huge population. I mean, 28% of the population. I mean, it's not 50%, but it's 28%. It's millions of people.
yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah,
Yeah. So here's the solution. It turns out that the main problem that people get stuck on is just phonics.
Okay.
It's a stumbling block. Really early on, it's a stumbling block.
Specifically in English or just
Just
in
in
general?
English.
Okay.
In other
makes
languages, the languages.
I love English, but we stole a
Yeah.
lot of things from a lot of different languages. So our rules of like how to spell stuff and how to pronounce stuff
Yeah.
are all over the map. Like they're everywhere.
So here's the solution: phonetic English.
Okay.
We need to, and I'm not saying, oh, we should just do this as a convenience factor. I'm saying we need to go to 99% literacy. And the only way we're going to get there is if we change our damn written language to be phonetic.
So you want it to, the words are spelled how they sound.
Yeah. So for example, I will write the whole description of this podcast in phonetic English. So you can just look at the description for an or for an extended example.
Okay.
But like the word phonetic would be Fohnetic. Phonetic.
Okay.
Right? So there'd be no, you can't misspell that. Everyone knows, like a long O, if you put an H after it, it turns it into the long vowel.
Yeah.
And then, so there's some phonetics, but or some phonics, but it's very simple.
Yeah.
There's no like the word through would be just THRU, through. There wouldn't be OUGH. The OUGH is like a stumbling block, and it confuses people.
Yeah.
Right? And that's it. And every spelling, if it sounds the same, would be spelled the same. There's no like different spellings for the same. And there's no like receive, I before E. No, it would just be RESEESIV, receive. Receive. It's just, or REESIV, receive.
Sound it out, write it out, and
exactly.
you're right.
Done. Yeah.
You're right.
It would be completely and when I'm not doing it perfectly into the mic, but I've got it all worked out because I have training sort of linguistically. So I have it all worked out exactly the phonetical sounds and then exactly their spellings. It's kind of like in Chinese. I've been learning a little Chinese, and in Chinese they have pinyin, which is the romanization of the pronunciation of Chinese,
right?
And it's perfectly phonetical, and so you cannot misspeak and you cannot misspell pinyin Chinese,
right?
But you can, and 28% of Californians do, get tripped up on the spelling of English. And everyone just acts, all these like white liberals, these hyper educated people, they piss on people who misspell, right? And I've been a bad speller my whole life, so I know this. I've misspelled things in articles, and then people just throw away my whole writing because they're like, I found a typo in it. I'm misspelling. I mean, not just a typo, but a misspelling.
It reflects on you as the writer.
It's a totally classist BS thing that's a holdover. I think it's a holdover from the origins of English. So the origins of English were the Anglos, the French, invading the Saxons in England. The English Isles were the Saxons, and the Anglos from France invaded, and then they took over. So the Anglos were kings, the French were the kings, and then the Saxons were the peasants, slaves, essentially, sort of landed sort of slave serfs.
And they were like, we were making you spell your words
with the Latin,
laborious
French, with the French spellings, which were all bananas. They weren't Saxon. They didn't sound like Saxon speech, and so then that French melded down into the Saxon language, and that created English. That's what English is. It's the blending of Anglo and Saxon, of Old German, Saxon, Old German, and Anglo's French, which is from Latin. And that's why in English, 40% of English words are French origin. And
you can kind of hear that. I mean, Anglo, French, English. There it is. It's a smushed together version.
Exactly.
I'm sure that's how that happened.
Yeah, sure. And if you think of German, has der, die, das, which is all their words for the.
Right.
But if you hear someone who's like a second language, German's their second language, and they never really figured out the der, die, das, they just say duh.
For all of them?
For all of them.
Oh.
And it sounds like the.
Okay.
So if you basically mash a bunch of other languages into English, especially like French, like Latin languages, you get, it's basically just taking Old German and mashing French into it. You get English.
So Japanese has this strength too, because that's the language I'm familiar with. And so it's a phonetic syllabic language. And so if you hear a word, you're like, oh, I know how to spell that. Yeah. Because I may not know what the Chinese symbols are, but I know how to spell it from hearing it, because there's no like surprises when it comes to spelling these words. It's always how it sounds.
Yeah. And when you do that, you eliminate the biggest barrier to people learning to read.
Now, I think longtime listeners of this podcast will have heard you say something similar when you like.
Yes, I talked about it a little bit.
You talked about putting English into Hangul.
Yeah, use Hangul.
Right? That's what I'm.
The Korean.
Because you were railing
could do
then.
that. You could do that.
You were
but
railing
it would
then.
be
You were
too
like,
much.
English is spelled weird. We need to fix the
We
spelling.
absolutely need to fix it. Well, before, but then when I said that was before I learned all about this. That was like months ago.
Yeah.
Or it was like a year ago I said that.
Yeah.
And then I thought I was being kind of goofy because I thought it would just be a convenience factor.
Right.
But then I learned, no, this is not a convenience factor. This is an absolute like mandate for our society. We need to change our language, written language, so that it is phonetical. Because it will make it so that some poor kid can just go to the library and learn to read. He doesn't need like tutoring. He doesn't need like training. He just need or she or he just needs to just read. They just sit and read, and they can just found out the words and read, and then it just makes sense to them, and they'll become hyper literate just so long as then have the time to read,
right?
And obviously the inclination, the time. There's still barriers to reading, but there's not a mechanical barrier.
Well, it makes it so that if you can talk, you can read.
Yeah,
essentially,
right. And if you have books around you. And but most people, they go to school, there's some books around them, and the teachers are like, sit and read. If you just told kids to sit and read, they would become literate. But now, if you tell kids to sit and read, it's just a bunch of things. They can never really figure it out because they can't.
Because, right. Yeah.
You can't encode and decode from language.
Well, you can't like just give a kid a book and have them intuitively figure out how does this work, decode it, eventually figure it out.
It's violence against the youth. And it's inherently classist, and it's inherently, I think it's inherently, just because of structural racism, it's inherently racist. If there weren't structural racism, then it wouldn't necessarily be racist. It would just be violence against poor people and people without access to. Like,
oh, that's totally fine. That's
well, yeah, it wouldn't be racism. It'd be classism or something. But I'm just saying, because we have structural racism that's caused, racial class divides. It's racist too inherently. So it's just all around like just horrible.
Now, I have two big questions that come to mind.
Yeah.
First of all, you spoke about libraries. Are we going to have to like double the size of libraries so that we keep the old version of like, what if I want to go and read
Kindles?
Like I want to go read Steinbeck, but in the original English, not in like this new version of like, you know what I mean? Like I know how to read. I know how to read English. I want to read Hemingway.
No, we need the new one
written in.
So the cool thing about this is that so much of our world is digitized.
Yeah.
That all you need is an app that converts it.
But so
and then you can just take anything that was written in Old English. What would you call this? Old English.
You would have the library would be separated into Old English books and New English books.
Yeah, yeah. And you would say no. It's way better to write these in New English because there would be. So that you are losing something. Anytime you change something, you lose something, you gain something. So what you're gaining is very, very simple universal literacy.
Okay.
What you're losing is you might lose some of the kind of signs or signals for what the root of a word was.
Mm.
So like if you see PH and it's an F sound, it's almost always a Greek word because it's the letter phi, the Greek letter phi.
Yeah.
Like the word physics or the word phonics or the word, whatever. Or the word psychology. There's a PS. That's big sign. That's a Greek word.
Mm-hmm.
So now if it's just psychology, SAICH, psychology,
KOL,
psychology, then you'd be like, you'd kind of lose that it was a Greek word. However, what percentage of the population knows that it's a Greek word and cares? Almost zero.
Very little.
And those who do aren't going to be blocked by the spelling being differently. They're going to learn that it's a Greek word some other way without needing to be reminded of it every single time they see the word, right? Like I'm going to learn, like I'm a Greek scholar.
Yeah.
I'll learn that psychology is a Greek word.
Also
it has logy in it, which is so clearly the word logos, and so clearly a Greek word.
Well, just in learning, you learn, psychology, psychologist.
Right.
These start with a P.
Biology,
it sounds with S, starts with a P. Knock sounds like it starts with an N, starts with a K. You just memorize certain things in your English brain.
Well, you get tutored you get taught that.
Right.
But if we had this, if you had phonetic English, you wouldn't need to be taught any of that. You could just figure it all out just by sitting with a book by yourself.
Okay. So that's the library question. Here's the other question.
Okay.
You come from a land where people say let's say the word bag, B-A-G. You come from a land where people may say bag.
Bag, yeah, bag.
And then other places they might say
Bag.
bag or bag.
Bag,
You know, like
bag,
there's
yeah.
a lot of variety of accents
A
and
teeny
pronunciations.
Teeny variety.
But like, do you need
it's
a
not like
different
Germany
English?
where you go or some other country where you go one village over and they
There
talk,
are
like,
places
totally
in
different.
America where it's hard to like if you go from
You're right,
Cajun,
you're right.
like southern deep Louisiana,
Yeah.
and then go up to like way northern
Yeah.
Maine. Those are like very different uses of English, I feel.
Yeah. You're right. Okay, so would there be some kind
We
of
would have to
standardization?
standardize it.
But it already is standardized.
Yeah.
right?
Well, there's like a non-accented English that
yeah,
we accept.
non-regional dialect.
This whole like
We'll have CNN do it, you know. The other problem with this that I've learned, because I wrote out a bunch of text written out this way,
yeah.
and one problem with it is it looks really dumb.
Yes.
It looks like someone like a caveman wrote it.
Well, I was gonna say it looks like a really cool 16-year-old writing lyrics to their new emo
Yeah,
song.
Exactly. So it looks dumb.
California with a K.
Yeah.
You're like,
yeah,
okay.
it looks dumb. So I think there does need to be some. I wrote like a hard version where it's like literally no, like no phonics.
Yeah.
You know, and it looked really weird. And then I was like, okay, what if we brought back some phonics, like adding an H to lengthen the vowel? And that started to make it look less stupid.
But then you're moving away from the full functional
yes
version that you were
but
shooting
it's so
for.
simple. I don't think I think the rules are so simple that you could pick them up because like 3 rules.
Okay.
And then I started to see also, like you said, the difference between a K and a C. And I kind of think like it looks really stupid if you write California with a K,
Yeah.
right? And it looks really stupid if you write where there's a C, you would do a K and K or a C. So it's like maybe we just preserve that there's 2 letters that look really different but actually have the same sound.
Uh-oh.
Because
slippery slope. Slippery slope.
I mean, yeah, it's a slippery slope, but I don't think it is a slippery slope. I think you're just trying to like make it so that it's palatable to be adopted
Okay.
while still achieving the goal, which is to make it so that anybody can pick up a book, and if they know the alphabet and they know how to speak English, they will, with very few barriers, get to just reading perfectly.
Basically 4-year-olds spell words the way they hear them, and then you're like,
And
oh,
you're
you're right.
You're wrong.
You're right.
Yeah, exactly.
You did it.
Yeah.
You
You'll
did
be
it
like,
right.
yeah.
In the new system, you're like, yeah, exactly right. Good
Exactly.
job.
Or you're like, or it'd be like Spanish where it's like, oh, it's actually a double L instead of a Y. Or like, oh, it's actually a V instead of a B. Like in Spanish, there's a few little places where it's like, oh no, you use the wrong. Or like in Spanish, they also have the accents. The native speakers get confused about where to put the accent.
Right.
But in English, you wouldn't have to do that. You know, you'd just put it wherever.
You just do that.
Yeah. And then, yeah. So you could do a phonetic language, and it would be awesome for English speakers. If we really wanted to make it so good, you would actually put the accent in, maybe on like 3-syllable words or something.
Right.
You'd put a little thing that would show the accent, because then you know how when you read a word a bunch and then you try to say it and you say it wrong.
Yep.
You look like an idiot.
Yep.
It's usually because you put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. You know. So if like words had the accent, but I guess you can look it up online too. But so yeah, that is the solution for the 2024
and we're gonna
new
have
year.
to-
We're gonna get maximum literacy. We're gonna fix the damn country. You think Donald Trump could be elected if we had 98% literacy? Not a chance. 0 chance.
If everybody's spelling words the way they sound. See, you could start this off by writing your next book
I want to release my books in this language.
What would you call it? Not
New English.
New English.
Yeah, I'd call it New English.
Okay.
Or the New English spelling.
People are going to think you're talking about like Boston, like people
Yeah.
from Boston.
New England, hey. It's written all.
This is New English, and we
New
always talk
English.
about the Patriots.
Yeah, we're gonna put up your dukes. I don't know, is that what they say?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, New English. I guess I'd just call it New English spelling. The
So
New
you would
English
write a
spelling.
book in New English to extol the virtues of New English.
and articles and stuff. Actually, the way to do it would be, I think, to make a Chrome plugin or a Firefox plugin, like
That's
a browser plugin that just
switches.
converts your whole browser into it.
Oh my gosh.
And then you could just turn it on and it would just all load converted.
the first day of like reading news on the New English,
It'd be hard.
your brain would be breaking
but
constantly.
I've been playing around with it, not a ton, but like maybe for like 3 or 4 hours, because it's not hard.
Okay.
It was a super simple project to do. But I wrote a bunch with it, and then remember, it started as not looking really stupid, and so I started to make some shifts to make it seem less stupid.
Right.
But once I got it to like where it stopped looking really stupid, I was like, this is cool. And like you read it and it doesn't look it looks kind of punk. It doesn't really look stupid, but it looks kind of punk. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. I didn't bring any examples to show you.
I'll check them out later.
Yeah.
We'll stay in touch.
We can start messaging on what. Well, the problem is all the autocomplete. You need to make a new.
The autocorrect is going to be like, you didn't mean this.
Right.
You're calling him stupid. STOOPID. Sorry, you're wrong.
Stupid would be just the way it is now. Stupid spelt phonetically.
It's in
STUPID.
Oh, perfect.
Stupid. Yeah. Because the I is the short I. If you want the long E sound, you got to do two E's.
I didn't know if you had to go like STEW or something or
stupid. No, it's not that. There's still diphthongs.
Okay.
So there's still diphthongs, and there's still some like flex.
Would vowels still have like a long sound and a short sound?
Yeah, and you can do that with an H, right? So you can put an A. And
H is not a vowel.
is ah.
Oh, okay.
And then just A is right? EH is eh. But
okay.
Just an E is They're almost all They're schwa, what are called schwa vowels.
Schwa vowels.
Yeah.
The upside down E. I know what a schwa is.
Yeah. I actually started off putting the upside down E in for the schwas, but it was too weird. And it was everywhere. I mean, it's like every sound is schwa.
Yeah.
So I'm still preserving some phonics, but it's sort of like, it's intuitive phonics.
Schwa is like the umami of sounds, right? Like it's you're like it's in everywhere,
it's
but
everywhere.
You can't put your finger on it. Like, what is it exactly?
Yeah, it's just it's like it's like it's
the best part of every
it's just yeah.
It's the sound you get when you hit, like when you fall off of something and hit the
Isn't
ground.
it funny the word schwa doesn't have a schwa in it?
Does it not?
Is a diphthong schwa. It's UA schwa. But it'd be schwa if it was the diphthong. Yeah. So if people want to get more educated on all this phonics stuff, they can listen to this amazing podcast called Sold a Story.
Solutions from the Solutions from the Multiverse. I couldn't even jump in with our own podcast.
They can listen to this amazing podcast, Solutions from the Multiverse. No, it's called Sold a Story.
Sold a story.
Sold a story.
Sold a story.
Yeah, and it's the history of what's called the reading wars.
Okay.
And I can verify. I listened to this podcast first without doing any research, and I was like, I don't know who this person is. I don't know if any of this is really true. And it seemed a little bit. There is a little bit of a political angle, which I can tell about.
Okay.
So I kind of was skeptical about it a little bit when I first heard it. But then I went and actually researched, like Google Scholar, like researched, like cited peer-reviewed journal articles. This podcast is 100% correct. She's very even-handed, actually.
And that is what sold a story.
Sold a story.
Sold a story.
Like I was sold a story. We were sold a story.
Is it
That's
like
not
a
true.
certain episode of it, or just
it's the whole? It's a mini series.
Okay,
and it's like 8 episodes or whatever, and it's really engaging and interesting. And basically, it's about what's called the reading wars, which happened. I did not know they were happening.
I didn't know
that it happened in the 90s.
See, I could get drafted into that kind of war. I don't want to get drafted into like the Vietnam or World War II. But
you can have flat feet and still be in the reading war.
You can draft me into the reading wars. I'm pretty sure that I can pick one side of them, and I also don't feel like I'm gonna. How do you fight a reading war? Maybe I should
just read as hard as you can in the direction of your enemy.
When your enemy is reading a book, you walk over to them and slap the book out of their hand onto the ground. They're like, "What?"
Or maybe it's just like you get a team and everybody has to prove like that they read, and you try to maximize how much your team read, and whichever team reads the most.
You're talking about a book club, I believe. That's just a book.
No, this is competitive.
Those are
reading.
just a book club.
How much can you read?
Competitive book clubbing?
Competitive book clubbing. Okay, here's a solution from the multiverse.
Oh, no.
Mini solution, sidebar. Book clubs are stupid.
That's not a solution.
I can't. No, sorry. That's the problem. The problem is book clubs are stupid, in my opinion. You can't get everybody to read the same book. And everybody who thinks I went to a book club and we all read the same book. No, they didn't. I promise you, 2/3 of the people there didn't read it.
That's the only thing you're supposed to do.
They just Googled a review of it and then they just made up.
Oh,
it's all fake.
Like school.
Yeah, it's fake. But here's a good book club replacement. So if you have a book club and you think everyone's reading the book, they're not. But if you replace it with everybody just read whatever you actually want to read, what you actually are reading, even periodicals or whatever, and then every week or every whatever, whenever you meet, everybody just shares what they read.
So they're okay.
It's still a book club, reading club, But now everyone actually read what they. No one's gonna lie. No one's gonna say, "Oh, I read Moby Dick last week. It's really cool. It's about a whale.
I read everything Shakespeare wrote this morning, so I'm pretty good on that."
So people will actually come and say, I read this really interesting article, or I read this book, and it's really impressive, and it's making me rethink this, that, and the other. It'd be a very interesting conversation because everyone would go around, and some people would share. Some people would be like, I didn't really read this much this week. Fine. They still get to enjoy hearing everybody, and no one has to lie to each other and say that they read something that they absolutely just skimmed or read a review of.
Well, and then, like, I'm imagining in a regular book club, when somebody is talking about their interpretation, you start logging in like, "Oh, I disagree with that. I want to remember to comment on that." And you're not like listening anymore.
Yes.
You're cataloging your response.
How wrong they are.
Yeah. But if it's like a new book that you're like, "Well, I didn't read that novel, or I didn't read that nonfiction book," I'm just going to listen to what you're like. I'll ask you questions about it, but you're the expert now.
Yeah, they're the expert.
You're the person who read the book.
Yeah, and you get to say, "Wow, that sounds really good. I'll read that book." Right? You get to like,
word of mouth situation.
Yeah, word of mouth situation. Like, wow, I never really thought that. Like,
okay, I was going to be like, what book club hurt you? Because you came out of the gates hot on book clubs.
Oh, they showed me on the doll where they read you.
but this makes sense. Like, I would do a book club where you're just reading your own thing. It encourages
This could have been a whole episode. I wasted it. Damn it.
Man. All right. Erase.
Good luck, everyone.
But
you get 2 this time.
But yeah, you get to like
literacy.
You get to read what you want to do. You're encouraged to read.
Whatever you want to read. Yeah.
In whatever version of English, New English, Old English.
You got to read in the New English spelling.
And then you get back together and talk with other people having read stuff, but it doesn't have to be the same thing. You're not like reading this thing going, I hate reading this thing. It feels like homework.
Yeah. Or like, I didn't like this whole part. If I had met my druthers, I would have never chose to read this book. It's like, no.
Or if I wasn't reading this for a book club, I would stop right here and be like,
And if by chance you chat about books that you want to read in the future, and then other people, like maybe 1 or 2 people are like, I truly want to read that book, then read it together and come to the next book club, and you 3 can all kind of share.
Right.
To the group, to the rest of the group. Fine. Easy.
I mean, reading a book with other people, it's not like going to the movies with them.
It's not.
We're not experiencing this in the same pace at the same time, at
very
the same
different.
start,
people
same
have very
finish.
different interpretations.
Reading is so different.
Very different. Some people like it, some people don't. I mean, sure, with movies, you think some people like it, some people don't, but less so. People are like, it was a movie. It was good. I mean, people like movies inherently, but some people like really don't. Like, I can't get through a lot of books, but I can get through almost any movie.
Well, you generally don't. You generally take a movie in 1 or 2
I almost
whacks.
Walked out of Maverick, though. I hated Maverick so much.
You're the only one. You're the only one.
No, I'm not the only one.
But like, a movie is not like
I heard the best theory ever about Maverick.
Work through your own pace. You don't work through it at your own pace. It's just what I'm saying. Like,
it goes at the pace.
It's delivered to you at a certain speed. Right. And a book, you can read fast or you can read slow, and the amount of time it takes you to get through a book is vastly different than someone else.
I read slow.
All right, so what did you figure out about Maverick?
I heard the best theory about Maverick.
You love talking about Maverick on this podcast.
He's dead.
Who's dead? Tom Cruise?
Maverick is dead. No, Tom
Maverick
Cruise
is dead, and it's all a fevered, like an afterlife.
Afterlife. Have you heard this theory?
I've not heard this theory.
Okay, because how does the movie start? He's doing like the supersonic plane.
Okay.
And he goes beyond like where you're supposed to go.
Right.
And it starts to like really rattle and go crazy.
Okay.
And then it just like blacks out.
Yeah, the plane like disintegrates.
It just blows up and he's dead.
He walks into a bar later.
The whole rest of the movie
is a dream.
It's afterlife. And that's why it's great, right? He goes from being this like loner, like dead end fighter pilot guy to like being called back into the service where his like enemy, like his rival is dying and is effete and dying and he needs to like save him.
Right.
Then his rival like apologizes to him and like begs him. And then like
I'm so sorry, Maverick, you're right about everything. We can't do this without you.
Exactly.
The one person.
Right. And then what is it? A mission that like a bunch of young people just are totally like looking up to you to like give them your knowledge, and like then there's this imaginary enemy that
everyone
wants
to be you. Everyone wants to smooch you,
and you have a motorcycle, and you get to and there's the woman that you've always loved that you never got to connect with. Now you're actually get together with, and you have this relationship with. It's heaven. It's not real.
Okay,
this makes me like the movie.
I could get behind this.
If this is the real thing, then I like the movie because
Maverick
it's cool.
dies in the first 4 minutes, and then the rest of it is his brain creating a Maverick-centric story for him. Because he really, like, the thing about Maverick, the movie, is that it's it's not a movie full of characters. It's a movie full of Maverick, and then everyone else only exists to inform
Relative
the
to
character of Maverick.
yeah.
They don't have their own, like when they go behind, like
Yep.
when they walk out of a room and we follow Maverick. They just kind of stand still like a robot and wait, like
Truman
Westworld,
Show. Yeah,
for them
Westworld,
for them to come back, and then they activate again. They don't have lives of their own. Like the lady that you're talking about, she's like, "I'm so glad you came back because my whole existence is about loving you,
Yeah.
Maverick. I don't have like my own life or my own things. Like those are secondary. Sure, I have a kid
I
and
have
a job
daughter,
and like a
but
business.
That's just
and
my backstory.
whatever. I'm going to throw that all away as soon as Maverick needs something because my existence is about informing Maverick the character. That's a good read.
It's
I like
a good
this.
read. I heard it on YouTube.
Okay.
I can't cite it because I can't remember who I read it. You know,
It's just one of the
YouTube is a fever dream.
There's not
as
that
well.
many
It
people
just
on
goes
YouTube,
by-
but they'll
yeah,
probably find it
yeah,
pretty
it's pretty
easy.
limited.
Just
yeah.
type
I think it's called
Maverick.
like the Dead Maverick Theory or Maverick Heaven.
I
or
like
something.
it.
Yeah, that's good.
I
See,
like
then I
these.
like the movie
Okay.
because then I'm like, yeah, cool. Because then all the insanity is explained. Like all the stupidity and insanity has an explanation, which is solipsistic, like kind of heaven experience that he's having.
I love when people get these like giant theories
Me
and then they
too.
come up to the
too.
filmmaker and they say it to him, wanting the filmmaker to be like yes or no, and the
Or
filmmaker's
like,
just like
Yeah.
whatever you want, man.
Yeah,
Whatever.
that's true.
I like it when they give ambiguous things. They don't.
Do you
go
know like
nope.
a grand theory that you think is like the best grand theory?
I mean, I don't know that I think it's the best. I remember getting sucked into the Jar Jar Binks is a
Sith
secret
Lord.
Sith Lord
Yeah,
thing
that's a
for a
good one,
bit,
yeah.
for a minute of that.
Do you know the whole Star Wars is being run by R2D2?
No.
There's a theory that R2D2
Okay.
is driving the like we think Luke is in charge. No,
What?
it's R2D2.
Nobody thinks Luke is
or,
in
or
charge.
Obi-Wan or Luke. We think like, oh, it's Obi-Wan or Luke or the Force or something. No. If you watch the movie, if you watch from New Hope,
R2D2 is pulling,
R2D2
pulling
is
all the
pulling
strings.
He's the one who, you know, has the thing to go to the princess. Right? And then his thing is broken. Right?
Yeah.
It's broken and it only shows a little bit and it just says Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
And then they find Obi-Wan Kenobi and then he shows the whole thing. All of a sudden he can show the whole thing.
It's really Kenny Baker's in
he's
there.
he's just controlling. He's
Making it all work.
and then when they destroy the Death Star, who's flying the plane? Who's flying the plane?
They're like, wow, Luke, great shot. And R2's like, no,
R2's
man,
like-
I did that.
Yeah, Luke's
That's
like,
all me.
the Force, help me. Oh, Luke, your tracking computer is off. Oh, I got this. I got the Force. Duh. It's actually R2. R2's like, no, your tracking computer's still on. I'm doing the tracking now. I'm gonna shoot it.
We need a phonetic language for R2D2's language.
You're right.
Because
Yeah, we
that
need to-
is impossible to write out. Like, how do you? They've made books of made novels of Star Wars
Graphic
stuff
novels,
and comic books. How do they write R2D2?
Yeah.
I've never read any Star Wars.
I don't know.
Do they just write like tweet tweet tweet
Yeah, I
tweet
think
tweet
they.
tweet?
Yeah, I think they do that. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that
So here's the other thing about the phonetic language. So some people might say, so the Chinese, the communists.
some people might say the Chinese are communists.
Well, some parts of China are communist.
That's true.
Yeah.
They're not shy about that.
They're very not shy about that. Although they're actually super capitalist. For communists, they're incredibly capitalistic.
They're communists who like
Who
making
just
money.
love making money. We shouldn't even call them communists. They're clearly not. They just love making money, and they have like terrible inequality. And
They're
like,
capitalists
they're just
who
capitalists.
hate sharing money. I don't know what the opposite of that.
I don't know what it is, but anyways, they change their characters to simplify them.
Okay.
And they simplified the characters. So like a character that have like 40 strokes or whatever
Yeah.
only has like 12 in the simplified.
Well, I was going to say there's
yeah.
simplified Chinese and
Yeah.
there is traditional
so
Chinese.
Taiwan still use traditional,
Uh-huh.
but mainland still uses
Japanese still uses the
Traditional,
kanji
yeah.
branched off far enough ago that they use
Right.
the traditional Chinese.
And
so
the-
like when
and
I
the-
go to
and-
China or when I'm looking at Chinese, I can get a sense of some of the characters, but some of them I'm like, oh, this branched off. And they've now simplified that
right.
radical to I mean, this is all Asian language nerd stuff, but they simplified that radical to a different radical that they
Right.
use now to make it fewer strokes or whatever.
And the research that I've read about that says, they did it as a kind of like anti-intellectual, like simplify it so that the people can learn to read easier thing.
okay.
And research shows that it doesn't improve the
It's just a
speed of
new version
reading.
to learn. It's
Yeah,
not like
it doesn't, just because you do like 20 fewer strokes, it doesn't actually really, you're still learning a character and you memorize a character
yeah.
the way you memorize a character is the way you memorize someone's face.
It's
Use the same part
It's
of
a
your brain.
picture. Yeah, it's a
you-
glyph.
Yeah. So you actually do it with facial recognition.
Really?
The part of your brain that is for facial recognition is what lights up when you read a character or a word. When you memorize a whole word shape in English,
Yeah.
that also is the facial recognition part of your brain. So anyways, so people might say on that research about the simplified characters, we shouldn't do this phonetic English, but it's not the same. I would
keeping our
refute
letters.
that. I would say, well, we're keeping our letters. We're simplifying it in a way, but what we're really doing it is just making it so that someone who can speak and who knows the alphabet can figure out how to read on their own,
Right.
largely. I
Yeah.
mean, it might help to have a sort of tutor sort of encouraging you and sort of unblocking you.
Well, you'll have to learn
But you could
the
sit there
26
and-
letters and how to
Right,
apply them
right,
in,
right.
you know, and how to read left to right and all that
I also
stuff.
think that some of the common beliefs in our culture of like who is smart and who is not, people think, like, I've had this debate with a lot of people because I'm of the belief that intelligence is like almost this identical across people.
Uh-huh.
And everyone is like, no, you're wrong. And I'm like, how long have you been teaching people? Like, how long have you been an evidence-based educator? You know, because they have never been, you know. I mean, I don't want to pull rank, but I kind of do want to pull rank. I want to be like,
Wait a minute.
you know.
So you're going in there going, my theory is that you are just as smart as me. And
Yeah.
they go, well, I don't think that's right. And you go, well, let me tell you how much smarter I am than you so
no,
that
not
you should
smarter. Just let me explain why people are almost equivalent intelligence. I mean, it drops off fast to like mentally handicapped people, but that's like a total categorical separation.
Now,
It's not like there's this long tail, like a gradient down to like mentally handicapped people. It's
Right.
like functional neurological human being, and then it's like ka-chunk, not
People who
functional
would not
neurological,
function.
but yeah, like
Yeah.
a fully like a handicap, like you have an arm or you don't have an arm. Like,
right.
it's not like everyone has arms, but then there's a gradient down to like little, you know, malformed arms. No,
Sure.
no, everyone just has arms, and then some people have little malformed arms, you
Yeah.
know, or whatever, you know, handicap
No, I
of some
understand.
kind. Yeah,
I understand what
that's
you're saying.
visible, right? The
Yeah.
problem with human beings is we can't figure out the invisible stuff. The visible stuff is really obvious to us,
Right.
race or, you know, color of skin, blah, blah, blah. But the invisible stuff, you need to use science to actually figure it out. The way we figured out magnetism, which is invisible, and gravity, which are invisible. The same thing, intelligence is invisible. So you need science to figure it out. And when you do the science, you find out that intelligence is almost the same across people. And the differences between, when there are apparent differences in intelligence, you can then pull back the layers of how did that person get there, and you find, oh, it's usually because of their environment or because of some circumstances.
Uh-huh.
And one of those circumstances that is universal in the Anglophonic world, in the English-speaking world, is our dumb ass writing system. And so if you're in the English-speaking world and you think some people are just stupid and other people are really smart, you might just be describing that some people, like, you know, the 75% of people or 80% of people who had access to like good education that gave them teachers who tutored them and took care of them, and their parents were at home helping them overcome phonetical difficulties as they read.
Yeah.
Those people all end up really smart because they unlock reading at like 7 or 8 years old, and that leads to this huge explosion of knowledge growth their whole life. And the other people, they got tripped up by phonetics when they were 8 or 9, and that blocked them off from learning a whole bunch of stuff for the next 30 years of their life. So when you meet them when they're 35 or 38, you think, this person's a genius, this person's an idiot by nature. And it's like, no, not by nature. Not by nature.
Just
They both just have arms. One person went to the gym and bicep curled every day for their whole life for 30 years. The other person like sat around and played video games for 30 years. They still have arms. You
Yeah.
know, the muscles are the same.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and we do this thing where we value some intelligences way more than others. We're like, oh, you're the reading, writing, math person, then your intelligence is valid. And someone who can't do that, we're like, oh, you're just not that smart. Even if they were like to pick up an instrument or a paintbrush or something and do an amazing thing, you're like, oh, you're actually a genius.
Yeah.
It's just this one section that you don't take to.
And even that I don't even really believe in. So I think that the person who like is really good with the paintbrush or something, it actually, if you look at their life, what you'll find is they've been swinging that paintbrush around a lot.
Oh, it's experience. Everyone can learn how to. I'm
right.
in that camp where you can learn. People can learn how to draw and paint and learn how to play music. And it's not like just there. Certainly, natural talent helps some people stick to it in the early stages and not give up.
Very good point. Yeah,
but
there is such a thing as talent. It's just it's important at the beginning, but it's not actually determinant of success.
I mean, I think it helps guide. We humans like to do stuff we're good at.
Yeah.
And so if you're initially good at something, you'll do it more.
Right.
And then doing it more is the key.
Yeah.
Doing things more is how
there's-
you get better.
I think
at
there's also what people don't recognize a lot And again, I like to communicate to people that education, just because you've had 15 years of education, you actually don't understand education. As everyone listening to this, just hear me loud and clear. You do not understand education
just going
because
through
you
it?
went to school.
Yeah. Okay.
You have to be an educator. And
No. That's not true. I drive a car, so I understand how
exactly
to
how
fix a car.
machines
Yeah,
work.
exactly.
You're a mechanic because you
I
drive
can build
a
an
car.
engine. I drive a car. Of course.
Right. So the next time someone's like telling you about education and you're like, this person's full of shit, just check in. Are they a teacher? Because if they are, you should just listen. You should just listen to what they're saying. Like, this heart surgeon doesn't know crap about heart surgery. I think heart surgery should be done this other way.
I've gone through the heart surgery from the receiving end, and
I've
you've
got
gone
a
through
heart
it from
surgery.
the doing end.
Yeah.
So we're the same
I've
thing
watched
now.
a lot of heart surgery.
We've both been
YouTube
through
videos.
a heart surgery.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, so my point is not just that I'm speaking from authority, but that you can also look this all up on Google Scholar. You can look up the evidence-based research that shows this.
You want people to write dumber so that we're all smarter.
Exactly. Dumber. Sometimes you got to get dumber before you get smarter. Yeah.
Oh, very
Well, what
clever.
I want to do is preserve democracy and prevent Donald Trump from getting reelected. And I think this is a solution. And we have control over it. Like, we can like promote New English spelling and have a credible belief that actually will promote and support democracy and science. And like, everyone's like, why is there such a backlash against science? Bitch, 28% of people can't read English. Like, of course they don't trust science. Like, they've never read science textbooks. They've never read science journal articles.
You're like,
they
look,
don't
here are
know
these
science.
peer-reviewed studies. And they're like, I'm not looking at that. What are you talking
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't
Like,
do
what?
anything
I
for
can't
me.
read that. Like, how much research can someone who can't read do? Zero.
Very little.
Yeah, none. Unless they like go on YouTube and have some expert. But then YouTube's full of psychos saying,
using the internet, you're going to need to spell things and write
well,
them
not
out.
on YouTube. Well, I guess you'd have to type out the query.
I
Well,
guess
not,
you
no,
could
you could
type-
click and you could
click
speak
and
it and you could
voice to
say what
text.
you want. Yeah. So there are ways, but you're going to get a bunch of psychos, and there's no way for you to really verify and
Right.
validate without reading.
Right.
So yeah, and you're just not even going to develop those qualities of mind
Okay.
if you didn't read. in
So
the
you're
first place.
saying we switched the phonetic. It's not even phonetic anymore. We
I got
switched
sweary this
the
episode.
spelling.
I got sweary because I was
you
so
even
mad.
got me to swear it a little bit.
Yeah, I said bitch and ass.
Let's say him again.
Well, I guess because it animates me and makes me.
You would have to spell them differently. How do you spell ass in your new English language?
I think the same because
I keep running into words and you're telling me they're spelled the same.
it's. Well, it might be because it might be ass AHSS.
And then if you go to England,
because if it's one S, it'd be as.
this is perfect. If you go to England, they
Well, no,
say
I think
arse.
we'll use Z for Z sound. So
What do we-
ass would be AHS. Yeah.
Do we need England and the UK to adopt this as well? Like right now, the only difference is they.
no,
put-
that'd be AS.
they
So
put
it is
use-
ASS. No, it'd be AS because AZ would be as.
Okay.
AZ would be as because you got the Z sound. Zzz.
But what I'm saying, like England right now, they just put an extra U in, and otherwise we're pretty
Like
identical.
labor, color, yeah.
Do you expect them to follow along with us, or is this purely in America?
So this is the interesting thing. I actually think so. We didn't even talk about it at the end of the podcast, and I haven't really shared the coolest thing about this.
Do it.
The English language is an enormous unifier globally.
Right.
Enormous, in spite of our spelling being totally bananas.
But
Right?
isn't that a function of our just like our weird egotism as Americans to not learn other languages, and so other countries are like, I guess if you're not going to learn anything other than English, we will learn some English for you.
It's kind of a critical way of saying it. I'd say it's because we invented like all the important technology of the
Oh,
20th
okay.
century.
Well,
Oops, you know.
There's an inflated way of thinking of it. Sure.
I mean, we invented the internet and computers and all this stuff, you know, and then now all of media is mediated through computers and the internet, and so it's all in English. You know?
I mean, maybe I haven't researched this.
Also,
but-
we bombed the rest of Europe into
Well, I was
smithereens.
going to have a more positive thing. It was like the export of media that we've got, that culture with
huge.
music and movies and TV. That is an ambassador of English
Huge.
out to the world in a
Huge.
constant.
We also
stream.
just have like a giant. I mean, if you think of the American, just America is unique in how extraordinarily large of a unified market it is. Like Japan is probably the next biggest or China is obviously huge, but China's still developing. I mean, Japan and America are the two largest developed unified markets.
What do you mean by unified? You're putting unified in
Well,
there.
the European Union just unified, so they can actually just like trade across borders.
So now it's like one.
But even they have linguistic barriers, and
Right.
so it's not a unified thing. America has had 250 years of like unified trade, language, like all in one place, all contiguous.
Yeah.
It's mental. I mean, that really is pretty amazing in the historical. Most countries are like little tiny countries with like their own language separated from everything else. We're like this giant thing that has its one language unifying it largely. I mean, people speak Spanish and Tagalog and stuff, but usually people can speak English as a second language or as a first language.
Right.
It unifies the whole thing, and then trade is unified across the whole thing, and currency unifies the whole thing. It's pretty amazing, just in its size. But let me get back to the language thing,
Sure.
which is as soft, not just soft power in terms of the power of America and the promotion of American values like democracy and voting, and and also the promotion of the value of science. I mean, America is a scientific society,
Right.
psychological society, scientific society, and we export these things largely through media and what we've written down, scientific papers,
Right.
movies, right? So if English adopted a phonetic language, a new English phonetic alphabet spelling, it would even further like push and cement and accelerate the pace at which English could become the permanent global lingua franca of the earth. I think it's actually one of the only things standing in the way of it like sweeping globally as like just
Is
the
this
obvious
spelling
way.
weirdnesses?
Yeah, this throws everybody off. Like
Okay.
you're like, I'm going to learn English. Okay, well, hang on to your freaking seat because.
Get ready to memorize that there's 2 C's in this word or 2 L's in that word.
And by the way, if you misspell it, you are immediately written off as like
dumb.
entirely unserious.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Like you have to learn to spell it. And so it's this huge barrier to learning English and having English continue to be this dominant, powerful, and I think positive force. Because one thing about English is that people are sometimes like, oh, America is like an imperialist country, and therefore, English is a sort of imperial. Not true, actually. Not true. So the research on this is that Mandarin and Russian, for example, are imperialist languages. They come in and they stop you from using your native language. They're like, you can no longer have schools in Szechuanese or in Tibetan. You have to have all your schools and all your governmental briefs and everything has to be in Mandarin. Or Russian will do the same thing. You can't have, your Cossack language. You have to do everything in Russian.
Okay.
Those are imperialistic languages
Right.
that blot out, culturally extinguish and erase other cultural languages. English, however, does not. English becomes a second language that then gives you access to the whole world market and to science and to everything else. So people are at home speaking whatever language they want. They're in their communities speaking whatever the language they want. And then they learn enough English to like tap into other things. Maybe they learn it at school or they learn it, whatever. You can see this in Chinatown in San Francisco. You walk around Chinatown, nobody's speaking English. They're all speaking Cantonese and Mandarin.
Yep.
But then you walk up and you say, "Oh, I want these vegetables," and you're like a white guy. And they start talking in English because they can sell you things in English, but they are speaking Cantonese.
They don't talk to you in Mandarin? That's crazy.
They don't. They read me pretty. They got me from pretty far away. They peg me.
Okay,
far.
you're not passing. I get you.
I'm about a foot taller than everybody.
I mean, I always mess up my spellings on stuff, so I would be willing to adopt this. Here's my question: names. What do we do with names? If you bring in a name from,
names,
if you're rewriting the theory of relativity,
I think we got to leave it.
We're going to write the theory of relativity in New English, but when we put Einstein's name on there, are we spelling it the same way?
That's a good question. This is good. You brought up a good issue.
I mean,
yeah,
I'm hitting
people love their names the way they are.
I'm hitting edge cases.
Yeah.
These are not like common.
I think what you
things that
do.
would
I think what you do is you'd write the name as it was historically, and then you would in parentheses write the spelling, the phonetic spelling.
Okay.
So that people who are reading it would know how to say it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, people would have people who got fluent in English who wouldn't have gotten fluent reading English because there was no phonetic alphabet once they got fluent in phonetic English, they would very easily
Transfer
up that,
over.
oh yeah, there was this old
Sure.
English spellings, and I know a lot of those
Right.
because I've become so literate that then I encounter a lot of, old English books, and then I know their spellings too. But if you never get literate,
Yeah.
then you'll never unlock anything. You'll never unlock any of those higher.
You're like, I used to take
order.
my pen and quill and dip it in the ink and write laugh out loud on my papers. And now I can just type LOL.
LOL.
Yeah,
right,
it's
exactly.
Completely, I've adapted.
Yeah. So that's my new solution for the new year. Just know that
New
people,
N-O-O or
yeah, new N-U.
N-U.
N-U, new.
Oh, like new me.
New. Oh. But new me is N-E-Y. New me would just be N-U-M-E-E.
You have to
New me.
respell your own currency.
Yeah. And when you said me, like me, you and me, it'd be M-E-E.
We would have so many of these conversations.
Yeah.
It'd be like,
Anyways, you
what
have to
did you mean?
standardize the spelling. But yeah, make it phonetical.
Okay. Teach it to kids. I mean, you don't actually have to teach it
You
to
don't
kids
have to teach it to kids.
because that's what we teach out of them.
Honestly, I think you could just put this in web browsers and children would just learn it from surfing the internet.
This is how, I mean, this is the pathway my daughter went from the new ideas on education are like, don't correct her spelling all the time. Just encourage her to keep writing.
Yes, right.
And then eventually she will correct it herself.
Which brings us full circle, quantity over quality.
There you go.
It actually is better. It is better to do quantity over quality.
Because you're like, do you understand what she means? Yes. Well, then good. The
Right,
meaning has been
right,
transferred. That's
right,
the main
right.
purpose. Dialing in on like this word is spelled with an O-U-G-H or a
Doesn't
C.
help
Like
them. It just discourages
it
them.
just makes them feel like they did something wrong and slows down the progress that
Exactly.
they were already making.
Yeah, because what you want is fluency. You're
Yep.
going for fluency. And
Right.
if you're constantly stutter stopping them from going along, they'd never gain that fluency.
Yeah.
And they just get filled. It's like if someone was trying to play a piano, and sure, they were making mistakes, but they're practicing. You wouldn't just every time they made a mistake be like, stop playing the piano. Play it properly the first time.
Let's go over that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they'd never gain like the fluency of moving their fingers across the piano smoothly.
You're like, I missed that note this time, but I'm going on, and then next time I play this, I'll
play-
remember that note I missed and
I'll
try
have
not
greater
to.
fluency, right?
But
So
I'm
you're
not
going-
stopping.
Yeah, but if you had the phonetic alphabet, people would have fluency almost immediately, or not immediately, but within a couple days of practicing an hour or two a day, they'd be like really fluent. There might be a few little bumps in the road, but it'd be like Spanish where it's like, is it a B or a V? I mean, it'd be like so simple. This would also actually here's the benefit that I know we got to stop, but this is the benefit that is probably the best benefit of all. Almost all the words
you
would be
saved
way
the best
shorter.
benefit for now.
Yeah, all the text would be way shorter. Like we
Okay.
said, new would just be NU. Through would just be THRU, right? They'd all be shorter, which means texting would be so much faster because you could do, boom,
Yeah.
boom, out the
Right.
door. Because you wouldn't have THROUGH through. I mean, you'd never.
Well, it's
never say
kind
that.
of. I was going to say this earlier. It's kind of like stenographers in court
Yeah,
who have if you've ever looked at the machine that they use, it's not like a normal keyboard.
right.
They're using phonetic. They're using sounds and
Yeah,
stuff, and they're
yeah.
writing stuff not in shorthand. That's a pen and paper thing, but they're writing something
Right.
where you have to be a stenographer to like then go back and read back your series of what you're hearing sound wise to be able to decode it back in. But it's a whole different way of writing the language down.
Yeah.
That is supposed to be more efficient, more but it's a special thing.
Yeah.
Like this would be a version of that, but
just
not a
everywhere.
specialized thing that everyone uses
Yeah.
and could benefit everyone.
Literacy.
Well, new literacy. I
Thanks
guess.
everybody for listening to
So everybody,
Solutions of the Multiverse.
step 1, throw away all your books. Step 2, wait for us to write all the books again in
Well,
new
you can
English.
just go to the description of the podcast right now, and you can read the whole description in new English spelling.
That's a commitment that Adam is making for himself
no,
only.
it's super easy. It's super easy to write.
Okay.
It. Yeah, and I should make a browser plugin to fix it.
Multiverse. Would any of our title need to be changed?
Oh yeah.
Oh man. Okay.
Sohlooshun. SOH. SOH. So for the long O.
Oh really? Okay.
SOHLU. Shun. TION. That's gone.
That's gone?
That's stupid. TION is shun.
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 That's
shun.
the shun now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm ready to shun some people.
Shun them.
That sounds all right. But not you, the listener.
No, you
we're not
guys are
shunning any
great.
of you guys. We want you to come back again next week.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Happy New Year.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.